Number 15. The Nursing Home Fire of Roger Dean. The case of Roger Dean and the Quakers Hill Nursing Home Fire is one of the most tragic and shocking incidents in recent Australian criminal history. Dean, a nurse at the Quakers Hill Nursing Home in Sydney, committed an act of arson that resulted in the deaths of 11 elderly residents on November 18, 2011. The events leading up to, during, and after the fire paint a chilling picture of the man whose actions had devastating consequences for many. Background and Roger Dean's early life. Roger Dean was born in Vietnam in 1963 and moved to Australia with his family as a child. He grew up in a seemingly normal environment and pursued a career in nursing, a profession chosen by many who are dedicated to care and compassion. By 2011, Dean was working at the Quakers Hill Nursing Home, a facility that housed many elderly residents requiring extensive care. Despite his professional facade, Dean had a history of drug addiction, including using prescription medications intended for patients. In the early hours of November 18, 2011, Roger Dean set 2 separate fires in the Quakers Hill Nursing Home. The blaze quickly engulfed the building, trapping many residents who were unable to escape due to their physical limitations. The fire was catastrophic, causing chaos and panic as staff and emergency responders tried to save as many lives as possible. Tragically, 11 residents perished due to the fire, while dozens of others suffered injuries and had to be relocated. Dean's actions during and immediately after the fire added another layer of horror to the incident. He actively misled firefighters and rescuers about the location of residents, hindering rescue efforts. Shockingly, he even gave a news interview shortly after the fire, where he portrayed himself as a hero who had risked his life to save the residents. In the interview, Dean expressed sympathy for the victims and their families, claiming he had tried his best to help during the chaos. This interview aired widely, portraying Dean as a concerned and brave nurse, which later amplified the sense of betrayal and horror when his true role in the fire was revealed. The investigation into the fire quickly revealed inconsistencies and suspicious behavior on Dean's part. Witnesses reported seeing him near the origin of the fire shortly before it started. Additionally, surveillance footage and forensic evidence pointed towards arson. Dean's past, including his drug addiction and previous erratic behavior, further fueled suspicions. During the police investigation, Dean confessed to setting the fires. His motive was allegedly to cover up the theft of prescription medications, which he had been systematically stealing from the nursing home. Roger Dean was charged with multiple counts of murder, and his trial began in 2013. The court heard harrowing testimonies from survivors, families of the victims, and emergency responders. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence of Dean's guilt, including his confession and the premeditated nature of his actions. Dean's defense was unable to provide any substantial justification or mitigating circumstances for his actions. In November 2013, Dean was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The judge condemned Dean's actions as a heinous and atrocious crime, emphasizing the vulnerability of the victims and the breach of trust inherent in his role as a caregiver. Dean's appeal against the severity of his sentence was subsequently dismissed, reinforcing the life sentences handed down by the court. The Quakers Hill Nursing Home fire had a profound impact on the community and led to significant changes in fire safety regulations for aged care facilities in Australia. The tragedy highlighted the need for stricter controls and oversight of nursing home operations, including the handling and storage of medications. For the families of the victims, the pain of losing their loved ones in such a horrific manner was compounded by the betrayal of trust by someone who was supposed to care for them. Memorials and commemorations have been held to honor the victims and to ensure that their memories are preserved. The case has prompted numerous discussions and myriad theories about the underlying factors contributing to Dean's actions. Some suggest that his drug addiction played a crucial role, driving him to increasingly desperate measures to conceal the thefts he was committing in his workplace. Others point to possible psychological issues, although these were not definitively established during the trial. The sheer brutality and callousness of Dean's actions continue to puzzle and horrify those who study the case. As of today, Roger Dean remains incarcerated, serving his life sentence. The case is a grim reminder of the potential for evil within even individuals entrusted with the care of some of the most vulnerable members of society. The legacy of the Quakers Hill nursing home fire lives on, both in the improved safety standards it spurred and in the enduring grief of those who lost loved ones in the tragedy. Number 14. Maureen Giteau. Maureen Giteau was a 24-year-old Kenyan woman living in London. She had moved to the United Kingdom with her family in search of better opportunities and a brighter future. Described by her friends and family as joyful, caring, and ambitious, Maureen had her whole life ahead of her. She was working and contributing to her community while dreaming of advancing her career and helping to support her family. Maureen Giteau was last seen on December 5th, 2022. On that day, she left her family home in Lewisham, South London, during her aunt's birthday party, ostensibly to meet friends. However, she never returned, and her family soon became worried. After several days without contact, her family reported her missing, sparking a police investigation. Mark Moody, a 54-year-old man with a troubled past, became the focus of the investigation. Moody had a history of criminal behavior and was known to local authorities. His life had been marked by instability, with a series of low-paying jobs and transient living conditions. Moody and Maureen Giteau were acquaintances, and their paths had crossed several times before her disappearance. He was working as a caretaker at a block of flats when Maureen disappeared. As the investigation unfolded, police used CCTV footage to piece together Maureen's last known movements. The critical breakthrough came when investigators reviewed CCTV footage from various locations around Lewisham. One of the key pieces of evidence was footage showing the moment Maureen met up with Mark Moody on the day of her disappearance. The footage tracked their movements, capturing them at different points in the city. This evidence was crucial in establishing a timeline and connecting Moody to Maureen's last known whereabouts. Further CCTV analysis provided even more damning evidence against Moody. Footage showed him moving a large bin, later identified as the container in which he had hidden Maureen's body. This chilling footage depicted Moody wheeling the bin out of his residence and transporting it to a remote area where he disposed of her body. These clear, time-stamped images were critical in linking Moody directly to the crime. Armed with the evidence gathered from CCTV footage and other investigative work, police arrested Mark Moody. During the subsequent interrogation, Moody's alibis and explanations were inconsistent and failed to account for the damning video evidence. The police charged him with the murder of Maureen Giteau. The trial was a harrowing experience for Maureen's family and friends, who had to relive the details of her final moments. The prosecution presented a compelling case. heavily reliant on the CCTV footage that tracked Moody's movements and actions. The footage shows Moody with Maureen on the day she disappeared, and it appears as though he lured her to the block of flats at which he worked. Once there, he brutally attacked her, taking her life in a calculated act of violence. After killing Maureen, Moody concealed her body in a large bin, attempting to hide the evidence of his crime. He then meticulously planned and executed the disposal of her body, transporting the bin to a remote area. Mark Moody was found guilty of the murder of Maureen Guiteau. The judge, considering the premeditated nature of the crime and Moody's attempts to cover it up, sentenced him to life imprisonment. The verdict brought some measure of justice to Maureen's family, although it could never fully compensate for their loss. The murder of Maureen Guiteau reminds us of the potential dangers that lurk in society and the importance of vigilance. Her family, devastated by the loss, has called for greater awareness and protection for vulnerable individuals. This case also underscores the vital role of technology in modern policing. The CCTV footage not only helped track Maureen's last movements, but also provides irrefutable evidence that was crucial in bringing her killer to justice. As cities continue to expand their surveillance networks, the ability to solve crimes and provide closure to victims' families improves significantly. Maureen Guiteau's memory lives on in the hearts of those who knew and loved her, and her case is a testament to the relentless pursuit of truth by law enforcement agencies. Number 13. Rodney Alcala. Rodney James Alcala was born on August 23, 1943, in San Antonio, Texas. His family moved to Mexico when he was young, but after his father abandoned them, his mother relocated Rodney and his siblings once again, this time to Los Angeles. Alcala's early years were marked by upheaval and instability. He joined the Army in 1961, but his military career was short-lived. After a nervous breakdown, he was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder and was discharged on medical grounds in 1964. Alcala's criminal activities began in earnest in 1968, when an eyewitness in Los Angeles saw him lure an 8-year-old girl named Tali Shapiro into his apartment. The witness called the police, who arrived to find Shapiro severely beaten but alive. Alcala fled and managed to avoid capture for several years. He enrolled in NYU under the alias John Berger and studied film under the well-known director Roman Polanski. During this period, Alcala committed numerous other crimes. He worked as a counselor at the New Hampshire Arts Camp for Children, where his predatory behavior continued. He was eventually arrested in 1971 when 2 campers recognized Alcala from an FBI wanted poster. Extradited to California, he was convicted of the Shapiro assault, but was paroled after just 34 months due to changes in state laws. In 1978, Alcala's audacity reached a shocking peak when he appeared on the popular TV show The Dating Game. Despite his criminal record and ongoing murders, he managed to charm his way onto the program. On the show, Alcala presented himself as a successful photographer and bachelor, ultimately winning a date with contestant Cheryl Bradshaw. However, Bradshaw later refused to go out with him, citing his creepy demeanor. This incident is widely remembered for its disturbing juxtaposition of Alcala's public charm and private monstrosity. Rodney Alcala's confirmed victims span from 1968 to 1979, but authorities believe there may be many more. His known victims include Cornelia Crilly, 1971. A flight attendant found and strangled in her Manhattan apartment, Alcala was not linked to this crime until decades later. Ellen Jane Hover, 1977. The daughter of a Hollywood nightclub owner, found murdered in New York. She had last been seen with a man calling himself John Berger. Jill Barcombe, 1977. A teenager from New York found murdered in Los Angeles. Georgia Wixted, 1977. A nurse found bludgeoned to death in her Malibu apartment. Charlotte Lamb, 1978. A legal secretary found strangled in the laundry room of her apartment complex in El Segundo, California. Jill Parento, 1979. Murdered in her Burbank apartment. Robin Samso, 1979. A 12-year-old girl from Huntington Beach whose body was found 12 days after her disappearance. Alcala often used his skills as a photographer to lure his victims, offering to take their pictures before attacking them. Many of his victims were discovered posed, indicating a ritualistic aspect to his killings. Alcala was finally arrested in July 1979 for the abduction and murder of Robin Samso. Key evidence included a locker in Seattle that contained a collection of photographs and jewelry belonging to his victims. His trials were marked by legal complexities and multiple retrials. Initially convicted in 1980 for Samso's murder, his conviction was overturned twice due to procedural errors. In 2010, Alcala was convicted for the murders of Samso, Crilly, Hover, Lamb, Wixted, and Parento, and sentenced to death. During the trial, he acted as his own attorney, presenting a bizarre and convoluted defense, including playing the song Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie. Rodney Alcala remained on death row at San Quentin State Prison in California. His health deteriorated over the years, and on July 24, 2021, he died of natural causes at the age of 77. Despite his death, the full extent of his crimes remains uncertain. Authorities have continued to link him to numerous cold cases through photographs found in his possession and advances in DNA technology. Number 12. The Missing Person Shrine. On an ordinary autumn day in October 2016, Long Island resident Chris Kratz decided to take his usual walk with his dog through the woods of Huntington. As he ventured deeper into the woods, Chris noticed something unusual. At first, it was just a glint through the trees, something that didn't quite belong. Driven by curiosity, he veered off the beaten path to investigate. Hidden in the secluded clearing, partially obscured by the dense underbrush, was an eerie shrine. The area was meticulously arranged with photographs of missing persons, surrounded by personal items such as stuffed animals, candles, and handwritten notes. The shrine's existence in such an isolated location was unsettling, and the way the items were carefully displayed was almost ritualistic. The photographs featured at the shrine included images of several individuals who were known to have gone missing under mysterious circumstances. Among these were missing children, teenagers, and adults, each with their own tragic backstory, although none of the cases had been linked to one another by investigators. The presence of the shrine suggested a deep, possibly obsessive focus on these missing persons, leading to widespread speculation about its purpose and the identity of the person or persons who created it. The shrine included photographs of several well-known missing persons, adding to the mystery and emotional impact of the discovery. Some of the individuals featured were Eitan Patz, one of the most infamous missing children cases in the United States. Eitan Patz disappeared on May 25, 1979, at the age of 6. He was last seen walking to his school bus stop in Manhattan. His disappearance sparked a massive search and brought national attention to the issue of child abductions. In 2012, Pedro Hernandez was arrested and later convicted of Aiton's murder, although the boy's body was never found. Suzanne Lyle, a student at the State University of New York in Albany, Suzanne Lyle disappeared on March 2, 1998. She was last seen getting off a bus on campus. Despite extensive searches and investigations, no significant leads have emerged, and her fate remains unknown. Sarah Ann Wood, an 11-year-old girl who vanished on August 18, 1993, while riding her bicycle near her home in Frankfort, New York. Her disappearance remains unsolved, although a convicted child rapist, Louis Lent, later confessed to her murder, but did not provide the location of her body. Irene Silverman, a wealthy 82-year-old widow and former Radio City Music Hall dancer who disappeared on July 5, 1998, from her townhouse in Manhattan. Kenneth Kimes and his mother, Sante Kimes, were later convicted of her murder, but her body was never found. The discovery of the shrine led to numerous theories and speculations about its origin and purpose. Some suggested it could be the work of a local individual with a deep interest in missing persons cases, possibly someone involved in search and rescue or amateur investigations. The meticulous nature of the shrine suggested a level of reverence or obsession, leading others to theorize that it could be the work of someone mentally unstable or harboring a personal connection to the cases. Another theory proposed that the shrine might be a form of memorial created by a family member or friend of one of the missing persons. This would explain the personal items and emotional content of the shrine. However, the inclusion of multiple unrelated cases made this less likely. Some speculated darker motives, considering the shrine's hidden location and the unsettling arrangement of items. There was conjecture that it could be the work of a person involved in the disappearances, although no evidence supported this notion, and the cases are not thought to be linked. Following the discovery, local authorities were notified, and an investigation was launched to determine the origin and purpose of the shrine. Police visited the site and documented the items, but no conclusive evidence was found to identify who created it or why. Despite the shrine's eerie and mysterious nature, authorities did not find any direct links to criminal activity, and no charges were filed. The site has since been dismantled, and many of the personal items and photographs were collected for further analysis. The case remains an open mystery, with the public and investigators left to ponder the significance of the shrine and the motivations behind its creation. The Long Island Missing Persons Shrine remains a poignant and chilling reminder of the many unsolved disappearances that haunt families and communities. It brought renewed attention to the cases of the individuals featured in the shrine and underscored the continuing anguish of their loved ones. The discovery also sparked a broader conversation about how society remembers and honors the missing, and the unknown motivations that drive some individuals to create such memorials. Like the fates of those featured by it, the true purpose and creator of the mysterious shrine in the woods remains unknown. Number 11. Chelino Sanchez Note. The singer-songwriter Chelino Sanchez was born Rosalina Sanchez Felix on August 30th, 1960, in a small village in Sinaloa, Mexico. He grew up in poverty and experienced significant hardship, including the murder of his father when he was just a child. These early experiences of violence and loss would deeply influence his music. In his early 20s, Cellino emigrated to the United States, settling in Los Angeles, where he worked various jobs to make ends meet. Sanchez began his music career in the late 1980s, recording and distributing his own cassettes. His music quickly gained popularity among the Mexican diaspora in the United States and in Mexico. He was particularly known for his corridos, which often depicted the lives of drug traffickers, criminals, and outlaws. Cellino's raw, authentic style and his personal connection to the stories he sang about resonated deeply with his audience, earning him a dedicated following. On May 15, 1992, Cellino Sanchez was performing at the Salon Bugambilias in Culiacan, Sinaloa, the Mexican state in which he was born. During the performance, a pivotal and chilling moment occurred. Cellino was handed a note by an audience member. The note contained a death threat, warning him that he would be killed after the show. Footage from the performance captures Cellino's reaction as he reads the note. He pauses briefly, but then continues with his performance, displaying remarkable composure in the face of such a direct and ominous threat. This moment became a key point in the narrative of Cellino's life and death, symbolizing the danger that constantly loomed over him and the fearless persona he projected through his music. Just hours after the performance, on May 16, 1992, Cellino and his entourage were driving away from the venue when they were intercepted by armed men dressed in police uniforms. Cellino was taken at gunpoint. His body was found later that day by an irrigation canal near Highway 15, with 2 gunshot wounds to the back of the head. He was 31 years old. The investigation into Cellino Sanchez's murder was fraught with challenges and yielded few concrete answers. Given the nature of his music and the subjects he often sang about, many theories emerged regarding his death. Some speculated that it was linked to the drug cartels, given his connections to the narco-corrido genre, which frequently glorifies and details the lives of drug traffickers. Many in the Mexican criminal underworld may have objected to their portrayals in his music. Others suggested it might have been a personal vendetta or related to his past in Sinaloa. Despite various theories, no one was ever officially charged or convicted for his murder, leaving the case shrouded in mystery. The visual of Sanchez reading the note warning him of his imminent fate has become a notorious emblem of Mexican musical history. Number 10. Colleen Ritzer. Colleen Ritzer was a 24-year-old math teacher at Danvers High School in Massachusetts. Born on May 13, 1989, in Lawrence, Massachusetts, Colleen was known for her dedication to her students and her passion for teaching. She graduated from Assumption College with a degree in mathematics and a master's degree in education from Salem State University. Colleen was described by friends, family, and colleagues as kind, caring, and deeply committed to helping her students succeed. Her teaching philosophy was rooted in positivity and encouragement, and she often went out of her way to provide extra help and support to students who were struggling. Colleen's future was bright, and she was well respected and loved by the Danvers High School community. On October 22, 2013, Colleen Ritzer stayed after school to provide extra help to students, as she often did. That day, Philip Chisholm, a 14-year-old student who had recently transferred to Danvers High School, was among those staying late. Chisholm, who had a history of behavioral issues, had recently moved from Tennessee with his mother after his parents' separation. As the evening progressed, Colleen was seen entering a bathroom on the second floor of the school. What followed was a shocking act of violence. Philip Chisholm followed her into the bathroom, where he brutally attacked her. Using a box cutter, he attacked and raped Colleen, then inflicted fatal wounds on the teacher. Chisholm then placed her body in a recycling bin and wheeled it out of the school, dumping it in a nearby wooded area. He attempted to cover up the crime by changing his clothes and disposing of the evidence. When Colleen failed to return home that evening, her family reported her missing. The school's surveillance cameras provided crucial evidence, showing Chisholm following Colleen into the bathroom and later wheeling the recycling bin out of the school. This footage led investigators to focus on Chisholm as the primary suspect. Police discovered Colleen's body in the woods near the school early the next morning. The brutal nature of the crime shocked both the local community and the nation. Chisholm was arrested later that day, after being found walking along a highway in a neighboring town. He was carrying a blood-stained box cutter and Colleen's credit cards, further implicating him in the murder. Philip Chisholm was charged with first-degree murder, aggravated rape, and armed robbery. Due to the severity of the crime and the overwhelming evidence, he was tried as an adult. The trial began in late 2015, during which the prosecution presented a detailed account of the events, supported by surveillance footage and forensic evidence. The defense attempted to argue that Chisholm was suffering from severe mental illness, claiming he was in a psychotic state at the time of the murder. However, the jury found the evidence of premeditation and the deliberate nature of the attack compelling. In December 2015, Philip Chisholm was convicted on all counts. In February 2016, Chisholm was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years for the murder, and additional concurrent sentences for the rape and theft of her credit cards. The judge noted the particular heinous and premeditated nature of the crime in delivering the sentence. The murder of Colleen Ritzer left an indelible mark on the Danvers community. Her family, friends, and students were devastated by the loss of a beloved teacher who had dedicated her life to helping others. The school and community came together to honor her memory, establishing scholarships and educational initiatives in her name. Colleen's family has worked tirelessly to ensure her legacy lives on, advocating for school safety and the importance of mental health resources for students. The Colleen E. Ritzer Memorial Fund was created to support aspiring teachers and promote positive educational environments. Number 9. The Randonautica TikTok. The tragic case of Jessica Lewis and Austin Wenner, a young couple brutally murdered in Seattle, Washington, captured national attention not only for its gruesome nature, but also for the bizarre way in which their bodies were discovered. The story intertwines elements of crime, mystery, and technology in unexpected ways. Jessica Lewis, 35, and Austin Wenner, 27, were a couple known for their kindness and close relationship with their families. Jessica was a devoted mother of 4, described by loved ones as having a big heart and a caring nature. Austin, known by friends as Cash, was supportive and loving, known for his protectiveness towards Jessica and her children. The couple had been together for several years and lived in Burien, a suburban area near Seattle. The horrifying discovery of Jessica and Austin's bodies came on June 19, 2020, when a group of teenagers using the Randonautica app stumbled upon a suitcase on the beach of Duwamish Head in West Seattle. Randonautica is an app that sends users on random adventures based on local coordinates, often leading them to explore unexpected locations that might be new to the user. The teenagers, expecting a lighthearted adventure, were instead confronted with a nightmare when they opened the suitcase and found human remains inside. They immediately contacted the police, who later found additional remains in the vicinity. The investigation into the deaths of Jessica and Austin revealed a gruesome crime. The couple had been shot multiple times before their bodies were dismembered and stuffed into suitcases. The medical examiner determined that Jessica had been shot 7 times and Austin twice. The brutality of the crime shocked the community and prompted an intense investigation. The investigation quickly led to Michael Lee Dudley, a 64-year-old man who was the couple's landlord. Jessica and Austin had been living in Dudley's Burien home, and tensions had reportedly arisen over unpaid rent and other disputes. According to court documents, witnesses reported hearing gunshots from the home and seeing Dudley struggling to move a large suitcase shortly after the couple was last seen alive. Dudley's arrest revealed more disturbing details. Investigators found bloodstains and bullet holes in the room where Jessica and Austin had been staying, as well as evidence of an attempt to clean up the crime scene. Witnesses also testified that Dudley had asked for help in disposing of the bodies, indicating a premeditated and callous approach to covering up the murders. In August 2020, Michael Dudley was charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. The trial brought to light the full extent of Dudley's actions and the suffering endured by the victims. On December 8, 2022, Dudley was found guilty of the murders of both Jessica Lewis and Austin Wenner. The judge condemned Dudley's actions as particularly heinous, highlighting the brutality and premeditation involved in the crime. Dudley was sentenced to 46 years in prison, a term that reflects the gravity of his actions and their impact on the victims' families. During the sentencing, family members of Jessica and Austin spoke about the profound loss and devastation caused by the murders, emphasizing the enduring pain left by Dudley's actions. The discovery of Jessica and Austin's bodies through the use of the Randonautica app added an unusual and unsettling layer to the case. While intended to be a tool for adventure and exploration, the app inadvertently led to the uncovering of a horrific crime scene. The incident sparked discussions about the safety and ethical implications of using such apps, especially when they lead users to unexpected and potentially dangerous situations. While Randonautica disclaims any responsibility for the locations it sends users to, the case highlighted the unpredictable and sometimes unsettling nature of its outcomes. Number 8. June and Jennifer Gibbons. June and Jennifer Gibbons, known as the Silent Twins, remain one of the most intriguing pairs in contemporary psychological history. Born on April 11, 1963, when their Barbadian father was stationed in Yemen, they moved to Haverfordwest, Wales with their family when they were young. The twins became famous for their intense, almost exclusive bond, and a series of behavioral challenges that baffled and captivated experts and the public alike. The Gibbons family, led by parents Gloria and Aubrey, moved to the United Kingdom in the early 1960s. Aubrey worked as a technician for the Royal Air Force, while Gloria was a homemaker. June and Jennifer, the youngest of the family, had an elder sister and 2 brothers. From a young age, the twins exhibited behaviors that set them apart from other children. They spoke Bayesian Creole, the family's native tongue from Barbados, but rapidly and in a high-pitched tone, making it difficult for others to understand them. This unique speech pattern created a barrier between them and the outside world, including their family. As the only black children in their community and school, June and Jennifer faced racial discrimination and bullying, which further deepened their isolation. They responded by retreating into their world, communicating solely with each other in a language only they understood. This selective mutism perplexed their parents, teachers, and peers, making social integration increasingly difficult for the twins. By their early teenage years, the twins' behavior had become a cause for concern. School officials noted their reluctance to read or write in class, although they displayed an unusual proficiency in these skills when alone. Psychological assessments suggested that their lack of outside communication was not due to a lack of ability, but rather a deep-seated psychological bond that made them dependent on one another. Despite multiple attempts to separate them in hopes of encouraging individual development, these efforts often backfired and resulted in the twins withdrawing even further. In one notable incident, when placed in separate boarding schools, both girls became nearly catatonic, barely moving or responding until they were reunited. In their teenage years, June and Jennifer began expressing themselves through writing. They filled journals with elaborate stories, poems, and novels, often exploring dark and complex themes. Their shared creative outlet, however, did not translate to improved social behaviors. In 1981, the twins embarked on a spree of petty crimes, including vandalism, arson, and theft, leading to their arrest. The twins were subsequently committed to Broadmoor Hospital, a high-security psychiatric facility, where they were diagnosed with psychopathy and schizophrenia. Their time at Broadmoor was marked by their continued silence towards others, erratic behaviors, and a further deepening of their bond. They spent 11 years in the institution, during which they were heavily medicated and frequently isolated. The most mysterious and dramatic turn in their story came in 1993, when at the age of 29, the twins were being transferred from Broadmoor to the less restrictive Caswell Clinic in Bridgend, Wales. During the journey, Jennifer inexplicably fell into a coma and died shortly after arriving at the clinic. The cause of death was recorded as acute myocarditis, a sudden inflammation of the heart. However, no drugs or poisons were found in her system, and there was no evidence of foul play. June would later speak out, saying that in the days leading up to the transfer, Jennifer appeared lethargic and would tell her that she was dying. This fueled speculation that Jennifer's death might have been a part of an inexplicable pact between the twins, wherein one had to die for the other to lead a more normal life. June's subsequent behavior seemed to support this theory. After Jennifer's death, she began communicating more openly with others and leading a more typical life. Following Jennifer's death, June was eventually released from the psychiatric hospital and returned to live with her family. She slowly began integrating into society, though she remained a private person. She later expressed regret over their years of silence and the pain it caused their family. June has shared her story with various media outlets, offering glimpses into the complex world she shared with Jennifer. Despite the challenges and the psychological scrutiny they endured, she has managed to carve out a semblance of normalcy in her life, although it will always be overshadowed by her sister's death. The story of June and Jennifer Gibbons has inspired numerous books, articles, and documentaries, each exploring different facets of their unique relationship and the psychological mysteries they presented. Their case has been studied extensively in fields ranging from psychology to linguistics, and their writings have been analyzed for insights into their inner lives. One notable documentary, The Silent Twins, delves deeply into their lives, offering rare insights and a poignant look at their relationship. This documentary combines interviews, archival footage, and dramatizations to paint a comprehensive picture of the twins' lives, their struggles, and the impact of their bond. It explores the psychological and societal factors that contributed to their isolation and the profound connection they shared. Number 7. The Poveglia Island Ghost Adventures. Poveglia Island, located in the Venetian lagoon between Venice and Lido in Italy, has a history steeped in tragedy, death, and mystery. Over the centuries, it has earned the moniker the world's most haunted island, drawing the curiosity of paranormal enthusiasts and historians alike. The island's dark past and eerie legends have made it a focal point for those fascinated by the supernatural, including the investigative team from the popular TV show Ghost Adventures. Poveglia's recorded history dates back to 421 AD, when it was first populated by people fleeing barbarian invasions on the mainland. Over the centuries, it developed into a thriving community. However, by the late 14th century, the island's fortunes changed dramatically. In 1379, Venice came under attack from the Genoan fleet, and the residents of Poveglia were moved to another island, called Giudecca. The island was left deserted for centuries. Poveglia's darkest chapter began during the bubonic plague outbreaks. In 1776, the Venetian government designated Poveglia as a quarantine station for ships arriving at the port. Later, in 1793, it was transformed into a permanent confinement station for those with symptoms of the plague. Those who were infected, or even suspected of having the deadly disease, were forcibly sent to Poveglia to live out their remaining days in isolation. The plague victims, numbering in the thousands, were either burned or buried in mass graves on the island. It's estimated that over 100,000 people died on Poveglia during these times, leading to its reputation as a place of death and suffering. In the 20th century, Poveglia's notoriety grew with the establishment of a mental asylum in 1922. The asylum operated until 1968 and became the subject of numerous ghost stories and urban legends. Patients reportedly experienced inhumane treatment and torture. According to legend, a sadistic doctor performed crude lobotomies on the patients before eventually succumbing to his own madness, supposedly jumping from the hospital's bell tower to his death. The asylum closed in 1968, and Poveglia has remained abandoned ever since. Poveglia's grim history has fueled numerous ghost stories and claims of the paranormal. Visitors to the island report hearing disembodied screams, strange noises, and feeling an oppressive atmosphere. Some claim to see apparitions of plague victims and former asylum patients wandering the island. The island's reputation for being haunted is so pervasive that locals refuse to set foot on it, and it remains largely off-limits to tourists. The soil of Poveglia is said to be composed of human ash from the countless bodies burned and buried there, further adding to its eerie reputation. The atmosphere on the island is described as heavy and foreboding, with many experiencing sensations of being watched or followed. The bell tower, where the mad doctor allegedly died, is a particularly active site for paranormal activity, with reports of ghostly figures and unexplained sounds. Poveglia Island's haunted legacy caught the attention of the Ghost Adventures team, led by Zach Baggins. In the second episode of the 4th season, the team traveled to Poveglia to investigate the enduring claims of paranormal activity. The episode, aptly titled Poveglia Island, showcases the team's exploration of the island's most haunted locations, including the ruins of the asylum and the infamous bell tower. During their investigation, the Ghost Adventures team used a variety of tools to detect paranormal activity, such as thermal imaging cameras, digital recorders, and electromagnetic field (EMF) detectors. They reported numerous instances of unexplained phenomena, including strange noises, disembodied voices, and shadowy figures. The episode highlighted the island's chilling atmosphere and reinforced its reputation as one of the most haunted places in the world. Despite its haunted reputation, or perhaps because of it, Poveglia continues to intrigue people worldwide. While the Italian government has restricted access to the island, its eerie allure persists. Paranormal investigators, historians, and thrill seekers remain captivated by Poveglia's dark past and the tales of those who supposedly haunt its grounds. Efforts have been made to rehabilitate and repurpose the island over the years, but none have been successful. In 2014, the Italian government attempted to auction off a 99-year lease for Poveglia to develop it into a tourist destination or luxury resort, but the initiative did not take off, leaving the island in its eerie, abandoned state. Number 6. Resurrection Mary. Resurrection Mary, a ghost story that is deeply interlinked with Chicago history, is the catalyst behind a series of eerie encounters and inexplicable events along Archer Avenue and near the Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. One of the earliest documented encounters dates back to 1939, when Jerry Paulus, a Chicago Southsider, found himself entangled in a chilling rendezvous with what he believed to be Resurrection Mary. Their encounter unfolded at the Liberty Grove and Hall, located at 47th and Mozart, where they danced, shared moments, and even exchanged a kiss. Mary, dressed in the ethereal white attire that would come to be known as her signature, eventually requested a ride home along Archer Avenue. However, as they approached the cemetery, Mary abruptly disappeared from the car and vanished into the night, leaving Jerry bewildered and haunted by the encounter. Decades later, in 1973, Resurrection Mary allegedly made another appearance, this time at Harlow's nightclub on Cicero Avenue. Reports surfaced of a young woman resembling Mary frequenting the establishment, leaving patrons mystified by her presence. That same year, a taxi driver entered Chet's Melody Lounge, situated across the road from the cemetery, seeking information about a fare evader who bore a striking resemblance to the legendary Spectre. The 1970s seemed to be a particularly active period for Resurrection Mary sightings, with numerous accounts surfacing between 1976 and 1989. Some of these encounters involved motorists narrowly avoiding collisions with Mary near the cemetery, only for her to vanish into thin air before they could interact with her. In August 1976, reports emerged of handprints burned into the iron fence surrounding the cemetery, purportedly left by Resurrection Mary herself. However, cemetery officials dismissed these claims, attributing the damage to a truck accident and refuting any evidence of supernatural activity. In a chilling account recounted by columnist Bill Geist in a January 31st, 1979 article, a cab driver named Ralph shared his perplexing encounter with a young woman fitting the description of Resurrection Mary. Ralph, who described himself as a pragmatic and level-headed individual, picked up the mysterious passenger near a shopping center on Archer Avenue. As they approached a desolate area, the young woman abruptly directed Ralph to stop, pointing towards a dilapidated shack across the road. In a surreal twist, she vanished from the car without a trace, leaving Ralph dumbfounded and grappling with the inexplicable nature of the encounter. Number 5. The Keddie Cabin Murders Crime Spree. Keddie is a small resort town in Northern California's Sierra Nevada mountains. In the 1980s, it was a modest and quiet place, primarily known for its serene surroundings and as a getaway spot for vacationers. On the night of April 11th, 1981, and into the early hours of April 12th, one of the most gruesome and inexplicable murders in the state's history took place in Cabin 28. The victims were Glenna Sue Sharp, 36, her son, John Sharp, 15, John's friend, Dana Wingate, 17, and Sue's daughter, Tina Sharp, 12. The brutality of the crime scene was staggering. Sue, John, and Dana were found bound, bludgeoned, and stabbed in the living room, while Tina was initially missing from the scene, her remains only being discovered years later. Sue Sharp's daughter Sheila, 14, discovered the bodies when she returned home from a sleepover next door. The cabin showed signs of a violent struggle. Blood was found on the walls, floors, and bedding. The tools of murder included a hammer and 2 knives, one of which was found bent in half from the force of the attack. Strangely, in an adjacent room, Sue's younger sons Rick, 10, and Greg, 5, along with their friend Justin Smart, 12, were found unharmed and seemingly unaware of the carnage that had occurred just steps away. The initial investigation by the Plumas County Sheriff's Office was marred by investigators' lack of experience in handling such a gruesome crime scene. Evidence collection was subpar, and the crime scene was not adequately secured, leading to possible contamination. Initially, investigators focused on 2 main suspects: Martin Smart, Justin's stepfather, and his friend John Bo Bubetti. Both men had suspicious alibis and behaviors following the murders. Martin Smart had allegedly confessed to the murders in a letter to his estranged wife, which was not followed up on by law enforcement at the time. Additionally, Bo Bubetti was a known felon with ties to organized crime. Despite these leads, no arrests were made, and the case grew cold. 3 years after the murders, in 1984, the skull of Tina Sharp was discovered in Feather Falls, California, more than 50 miles from Keddie. This development added a new layer of mystery to the case, suggesting possible abduction and further complicating the investigation. Over the years, several theories have emerged regarding the Keddie Cabin murders. One prevailing theory suggests that the murders were driven by a personal vendetta. This theory stems from the sheer brutality and overkill present in the attacks, indicating intense personal anger towards the victims, especially Sue Sharp. Sue had moved to Keddie following a difficult separation from her husband, bringing her 5 children along. It's possible that Sue's relationships or interactions may have provoked hostility in the small community. One speculation is that she may have been involved with a married man, causing a jealous spouse to seek revenge. Additionally, Sue's status as a single mother struggling to make ends meet could have led to friction or resentment from others in the community. The intense violence, with Sue being the primary target, supports the idea of a deeply personal motive, although specific details and evidence supporting this or any theory remain elusive. Another theory posits that the murders were connected to drug activity. During the 1980s, rural areas in California were not immune to the spread of drug trafficking and related violence. According to this theory, the murders could have been the result of a drug deal gone wrong, or a targeted message to others involved in illegal activities. This line of thought gains some credibility given the era's increasing drug-related violence and the nature of the crime. The possible involvement of Martin Smart and John Beau Bubetti, both of whom had questionable backgrounds and potential ties to criminal activity, further fuels this theory. Bubetti's known connections to organized crime suggest the possibility that he and Smart might have been involved in, or had knowledge of, local drug operations, and the murders could have been an effort to eliminate witnesses or settle scores. Despite its plausibility, concrete evidence linking the murders directly to drug-related motives has not been established. A more sinister theory involves a potential cover-up, possibly implicating local law enforcement. This theory arises from the numerous perceived mishandlings in the case, such as the failure to secure the crime scene adequately, the loss of crucial evidence, and the lack of follow-up on significant leads, including Martin Smart's alleged confession. Proponents of this theory argue that either incompetence or deliberate obstruction played a role in preventing the case from being solved. Some suggest that Smart's connections or Bubetti's criminal background may have influenced local officials, leading to a deliberate effort to obstruct justice. The cover-up theory is compelling in its ability to explain the many investigative failings and the inexplicable lack of progress over the decades. However, like other theories, it suffers from a lack of direct evidence proving intentional obstruction or collusion by law enforcement. Another theory is that the murders were random acts of extreme violence by strangers. This theory posits that the victims were simply at the wrong place at the wrong time, and fell victim to transient criminals passing through the area. The remote location of Keddie and the fact that it was a known resort area make this scenario plausible. Travelers or drifters with violent tendencies could have come across Cabin 28 and decided to carry out the attack impulsively. This theory, however, does not easily explain the specific targeting and overkill nature of the murders, which suggest a level of emotion beyond what would be expected from a random encounter. Moreover, the presence of specific tools, such as hammers and knives, used as weapons, indicates a premeditated element rather than a spontaneous act of violence. In recent years, the case has seen renewed interest in investigative efforts. The re-examination of old evidence using modern forensic techniques has kept the hope of solving the case alive. There has also been new evidence. In 2016, a hammer believed to be one of the murder weapons was discovered in a nearby pond. DNA evidence has also been re-examined, leading to the identification of some potential suspects, although no charges have been made. The Plumas County Sheriff's Office has remained committed to solving the case, often collaborating with private investigators and true crime enthusiasts to keep the momentum going. Despite the advancements in forensic science and the renewed focus on the case, the Keddie Cabin murders remain officially unsolved. Number 4. The suspicious death of Tamla Horsford. The mysterious death of Tamla Horsford, a 40-year-old mother of 5, has been the subject of widespread speculation and controversy in the years since it occurred. Tamla's death took place under perplexing circumstances at a party in Forsyth County, Georgia, in November 2018. Despite an official ruling of accidental death, Many questions and theories remain about the true nature of what happened that night. Tamla Horsford was known for her vibrant personality and dedication to her family. Originally from the Caribbean, Tamla lived in Cumming, Georgia, with her husband and children. She was described as outgoing and full of life, often participating in community and school activities. On the night of November 3, 2018, Tamla attended an overnight football moms party at the home of Jean Myers, a friend and fellow football mom. The gathering was meant to be a casual event where moms could unwind and watch football. Tamla was the only black woman at the party, which was attended by about a dozen people, mostly women, along with a few men who were the partners of the attendees and who spent most of their time in another room. Throughout the evening, Tamla was reportedly in good spirits, enjoying drinks and socializing with the other guests. She sent her husband a text message around 10:30 p.m., indicating that she was having a good time and planning to stay the night. As the evening progressed, some of the attendees began to go to bed, leaving Tamla and a few others awake. According to witness statements, Tamla was last seen around 1:30 a.m. on November 4, 2018, smoking a cigarette on the balcony. The next morning, around 7:30 a.m., Tamla's lifeless body was discovered face down in the backyard, directly beneath the balcony. The Forsyth County Sheriff's Office initiated an investigation into Tamla's death. An autopsy conducted by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, concluded that she had died from multiple blunt force injuries. The autopsy report indicated that her injuries were consistent with a fall from the balcony, ruling the death as accidental. The report also noted a high blood alcohol level and traces of THC and Xanax in her system. Despite the official ruling, many aspects of the investigation raised concerns and suspicions. The initial handling of the crime scene was criticized for potential oversight of evidence and lack of thoroughness. Moreover, several inconsistencies emerged in the witness statements, and some of the attendees reportedly lawyered up soon after the incident. The official conclusion by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation states that Tamla Horsford died as a result of an accidental fall from the second-story balcony of the home where the party was being held. The autopsy report indicated that she sustained multiple blunt force injuries consistent with a fall and had a high blood alcohol level, along with traces of THC and Xanax in her system. Proponents of this theory argue that Tamla's intoxicated state likely contributed to her losing balance and falling from the balcony. The injuries documented in the autopsy report align with those expected from such a fall, and there were no signs of a struggle or defensive wounds that would typically indicate foul play. However, critics point out that the handling of the crime scene and the investigation was flawed, potentially leading to missed evidence. Additionally, the lack of comprehensive interviews with all party attendees and the swift closure of the case raised suspicions. Furthermore, some argue that certain injuries, particularly those to her wrists and shins, could suggest more than just a fall. Another theory posits that Tamla Horsford's death was not an accident, but rather the result of foul play, possibly involving one or more attendees at the party. The inconsistencies in witness statements, the behavior of some partygoers immediately after the incident, and the rapid legal counsel some sought all contribute to suspicions of a cover-up. Supporters of this theory highlight several points. Discrepancies in the testimonies provided by those present at the party raise questions about the accuracy and truthfulness of their accounts. The fact that some attendees immediately sought legal counsel and seemed reluctant to cooperate fully with the investigation is seen as suspicious, and some of Tamla's injuries, such as the cuts on her shins and wrists, are argued to be inconsistent with a simple fall, and might indicate an altercation or struggle. Additionally, the crime scene was not preserved adequately, and key pieces of evidence, such as the outdoor cameras not working, fuel theories of tampering or negligence. Given that Tamla Horsford was the only black person at the party, some believe that racial bias may have influenced both the events leading to her death and the subsequent investigation. Proponents of this discuss the possibility that either racially motivated foul play occurred, or that Tamla's death was mishandled due to systematic bias within law enforcement. The history of racial tension and mistrust between the black community and law enforcement agencies, both in the area and across the country, contributes to the plausibility of this theory. The outcry from the public, especially from communities of color, and their calls for a more thorough investigation, reflect broader concerns about racial justice. The perceived lack of urgency and thoroughness in investigating Tamla's death compared to other cases may indicate bias, whether conscious or unconscious. Another theory suggests that Tamla's death could have been the result of an unintentional act of violence or negligence. This could include an accidental push, an argument that escalated, or a failure to seek help after an injury occurred, leading to her death. Witness behavior, such as the inconsistencies in their accounts, could indicate panic or attempts to hide the truth about an unintentional accident. Certain injuries might support a scenario where Tamla was injured in a way that was not immediately fatal, but became so due to a lack of timely medical intervention. In 2020, following public outcry and pressure from Tamla's family and supporters, the case was reopened for further investigation. The Forsyth County Sheriff's Office requested that the GBI take another look at the case to address the concerns raised by the family and the community. Despite the renewed investigation, as of now, no new evidence has come to light that definitively contradicts the original findings. The case remains officially closed, with the cause of death still listed as accidental. Number 3. Stephen McDaniel interview. Lauren Giddings was born on April 18, 1984, in Laurel, Maryland. She was a bright, ambitious, and compassionate individual, known for her dedication to her studies and her genuine care for those around her. Lauren attended Agnes Scott College for her undergraduate studies, where she developed a passion for law. Following her graduation, she moved to Macon, Georgia, to attend Mercer University School of Law. At Mercer, Lauren excelled academically and formed close bonds with her classmates. She was actively involved in various school activities and was well respected by her peers and professors. Lauren's dream was to become a successful attorney, and she was on the cusp of realizing that dream when she was last seen on June 25, 2011. She had recently graduated from law school and was preparing to take the bar exam. Her friends and family became concerned when they couldn't reach her over the following days. Lauren's friends went to her apartment on June 30th to check on her, noticing her car parked outside and her door locked. They called the police, who conducted a welfare check. Upon entering Lauren's apartment, the police found it eerily tidy, with no immediate signs of a struggle. However, a foul odor led them to a nearby trash bin, where they discovered Lauren's dismembered torso. This gruesome discovery confirmed her loved one's worst fears and launched a full-scale investigation into her murder. Stephen McDaniel, a neighbor and former classmate of Lauren's, quickly became a person of interest due to his proximity to Lauren and his unusual behavior. McDaniel was an introverted and eccentric individual, often described as socially awkward and reclusive. Despite this, he managed to perform well academically. He lived in the same apartment complex as Lauren, and their paths crossed frequently due to their shared classes and proximity. Unbeknownst to many, McDaniel had developed a disturbing obsession with Lauren. He harbored dark fantasies about her and secretly stalked her for months. McDaniel's obsession escalated as he began to spy on Lauren through her windows and even broke into her apartment on multiple occasions. His fixation on Lauren was a well-guarded secret, masked by a quiet and unassuming demeanor. During the initial investigation, McDaniel gave a televised interview where he pretended to be a concerned friend. In the interview, he expressed shock and sadness over Lauren's disappearance. However, his apparent nervousness and evasive answers raised suspicions. The pivotal moment in the interview came when the reporter informed McDaniel that a body had been found. McDaniel's reaction was one of visible shock and fear as he struggled to maintain his composure. This reaction further fueled the investigators' suspicions and the public's intrigue. Police searched McDaniel's apartment and found significant evidence linking him to the crime. Among the items discovered were packaging for a hacksaw, latex gloves, and explicit photographs of children. Additionally, McDaniel's internet search history included queries on how to commit murder and dispose of a body. Faced with overwhelming evidence, McDaniel initially denied any involvement. However, he later confessed to the murder of Lauren Giddings. He detailed how he had broken into her apartment on the night of June 25, 2011, and attacked her while she was sleeping. After strangling Lauren to death, McDaniel dismembered her body in an attempt to conceal his crime. His confession revealed the depth of his obsession and the premeditated nature of the murder. Stephen McDaniel was charged with the murder of Lauren Giddings. In 2014, he pled guilty and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The court proceedings brought some measure of closure to Lauren's family and friends, though the pain of her loss remains. The judge condemned McDaniel's actions as a heinous and calculated crime, emphasizing the breach of trust inherent in his role as a neighbor and classmate. Since his conviction, Stephen McDaniel has been serving his life sentence in a Georgia state prison. In 2015, he appealed his sentence, arguing that his confession was coerced and that he had not been properly advised of his rights. The appeal was dismissed, with the court finding that McDaniel's confession had been given voluntarily and that his rights had been upheld throughout the investigation and trial. McDaniel will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. He remains a figure of public fascination and revulsion, with his news interview and the video of his police interrogation both going down in internet infamy. Number 2. Ricard Siagian. Ricard Siagian, a man whose YouTube videos chronicled his battle with a mysterious and debilitating condition, captured the attention and concern of viewers worldwide. His tragic story, marked by a steady decline in health and mental stability, is a poignant reminder of the profound impact of chronic illness and the desperate search for understanding and relief. Little is known about Ricard Siagian's early life before he began posting videos on YouTube. However, his journey into the public eye began when the Indonesian YouTuber started documenting his struggle with severe insomnia, a condition that prevented him from sleeping and drastically affected his quality of life. His channel, initially featuring content about tattoos, gradually shifted focus as his condition worsened. Ricard's YouTube channel became a diary of his suffering, claiming that his symptoms began after taking medication for an infection. He uploaded videos that showcased his attempts to sleep, often staring into the camera with dark circles under his eyes, visibly exhausted and in distress. As weeks turned to months, viewers could see a marked decline in his physical appearance and mental state. His once lively demeanor turned into one of despair and confusion. The content of his videos grew increasingly disturbing. Rickard would often speak about his inability to find rest, expressing frustration, fear, and a sense of hopelessness. He tried various remedies and sought medical help, but nothing seemed to alleviate his symptoms. The lack of sleep took a toll on his cognitive functions, and his videos began to reflect a descent into paranoia and delusion. In some of the later videos, Rickard's behavior became more erratic. He spoke about hearing voices and experiencing hallucinations, symptoms that were exacerbated the longer he went without sleep. His speech grew more disjointed, and he appeared increasingly disoriented. Viewers watched in horror as his sanity seemed to unravel before their eyes. The online community reacted with a mix of empathy, concern, and helplessness. Many viewers reached out with suggestions and words of encouragement, hoping to offer some comfort or solution. However, the severity of Rickard's condition and the apparent lack of effective treatment left many feeling powerless. Some users speculated about the possible causes of his insomnia, ranging from rare sleep disorders like fatal familial insomnia to severe psychological conditions. Despite the various theories, the exact nature of Rickard's illness remained a mystery. Tragically, Rickard Siagian's struggle came to an end in 2016 when he passed away, a death attributed to the severe and unrelenting effects of his condition. His final videos showed a man who had been worn down by his battle, leaving a lasting impact on those who had followed his journey. The online community mourned his loss, sharing tributes and expressing their sorrow for a life cut short by a mysterious and relentless illness. Rickard Siagian's story serves as a haunting example of the devastating effects of chronic illness, particularly when it is not well understood or adequately treated. His videos provide a raw and unfiltered look into the life of someone battling an invisible enemy, offering valuable insights into the human experience of suffering and resilience. His legacy continues through the digital footprint he left behind. Rickard's documentation of his own decline is a morbid reflection of his experiences and a reminder of the need for continued research into chronic illnesses and sleep disorders. Rather than suffering alone, he was able to connect with a community of viewers who hoped for a different ending for him. Number 1. Natalie McNally. Natalie McNally, a 32-year-old woman from Lurk, Northern Ireland, was known for her vibrant personality and strong connections with her community. She worked for TransLink, the public transport operator in Northern Ireland, and was actively involved in various community activities. Natalie was also expecting her first child, joyfully anticipating the new addition to her family. However, on December 18, 2022, Natalie was found brutally murdered in her own home. She had been stabbed multiple times, and there were clear signs of a violent struggle. The brutal nature of the crime shocked her family, friends, and the broader community. Initial investigations pointed towards a domestic incident, given the personal and intimate nature of the attack. Attention quickly turned to Stephen McCullough, a YouTuber and the primary suspect in the case. McCullough, who had a relationship with Natalie, initially appeared to have an airtight alibi. On the night of Natalie's murder, he was reportedly live streaming a gaming session on YouTube, which was viewed by a number of his followers. This live stream seemed to place him far from the crime scene at the crucial time, leading to initial confusion among investigators. However, as the investigation progressed, authorities discovered inconsistencies in McCullough's alibi. Detailed analysis revealed that the livestream was not as it seemed. McCullough had pre-recorded the gaming session and used software to simulate a live broadcast. effectively staging an alibi while he committed the murder. This revelation was critical in turning the investigation's focus back to him. The breakthrough in the investigation came when police examined the timestamps and viewer interactions during the live stream. They found the chat interactions were minimal and not in real time, supporting the theory that the video was pre-recorded. Further digital forensics and witness testimonies strengthened the case against McCullough. On January 11, 2023, Stephen McCullough was arrested and charged with the murder of Natalie McNally. During his arrest, investigators found additional evidence, including hidden messages and notes related to the staged livestream, which McCullough had meticulously planned to mislead the authorities. Though he has initially pled not guilty, Stephen McCullough's trial is set to begin in September 2024. He faces charges of murder and attempting to pervert the course of justice. The prosecution will present evidence highlighting the premeditated nature of the crime and the deliberate efforts McCullough made to create a false alibi.